With so much focus on the presidential and Senate races, it's easy to forget candidates aren't the only thing on the ballot this election. 32 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico are voting on ballot initiatives this year. Some have big spending behind them, while others are getting less attention. To break down some of the most impactful and interesting initiatives, let's bring in Dave Weigel. He's a national political reporter for the Washington Post, and he joins us now on the phone. Dave, thanks very much for being with us. So many to cover, but let's start with California's Proposition 22. You call it the most dramatic use of the initiative process. Ride-hailing companies like Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash have spent more than $200 million to pass it against some intensely vocal opposition. Why?
Well, that's right. And even in California, that's a lot of money. This is a major priority of these rideshare companies and something they're using their resources to promote. If you're using Uber in California, you're getting push notifications to vote for this, is because they're trying to undo legislation passed by the state that required independent contractors to get the benefits of employees. It is a major priority of these companies to stop that. They drafted this and got on the ballot this resolution, this change to the law that would remove that, allow them to treat contractors like contractors and give them a smaller suite of benefits. And they've sold it as it's them, the companies, that are going to give these people rights and privileges they haven't had before. And it's been opposed by progressives, but they've been wildly outspent. The only thing that makes them optimistic is it's polling pretty close. The attention on how much these companies are spending, I wouldn't say it's backfired, but there's a little bit of skepticism about where it's all coming from.
Interesting. Well, with the confirmation of Justice Amy Coney Barrett and the Supreme Court deciding Friday whether to review Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban, this issue is back in the national spotlight. Where is this issue on the ballot this election?
Well, in Louisiana, there's a measure that would change the state's constitution and make it clear that the right to abortion is not in it. And the same thing is happening in Colorado. The Colorado measure, unsurprisingly, if you follow the politics, is not succeeding right now. Colorado is a more moderate measure. It would cut off abortion rights after 22 weeks. And that's exactly the kind of iterative change to abortion law that conservatives think you can pass now and get upheld by a conservative Supreme Court. The Louisiana law is a bolder test. All these might be supplanted by litigation that's going on right now. There are states that are trying to go for much further reaching bans in the hopes that the court undoes Roe. But these measures, I think, they might be some of the last restrictions passed statewide if that happens, because the ball might move to activists trying to write abortion rights into state constitutions. There's a long period of what are so-called trigger laws where states are going to ban the process or restrict the process if Roe is overturned. So this Louisiana measure is kind of the last one of those on the ballot this year.
Well, one of the more common ballot initiative issues we hear about is drug legalizations. Several states have voted to legalize medicinal or recreational marijuana over the past decade, and more states have the chance this year. But THC is not the only drug on the ballot. Tell us more about that.
Well, that's right. Oregon and Washington, D.C. both have ballot initiatives that would decriminalize natural hallucinogenic drugs. So not LSD, but mushrooms, psilocybins, things like that. And the Oregon one, this is a state that has been basically, with the exception of one poorly written marijuana legalization measure, has been legalizing. Same thing in D.C. There's some political opposition, but the politics around hallucinogenics are a lot less fraught than the politics around drugs that are where you see big sentencing discrepancies, disparities. Those two localities, they might join Denver in making hallucinogenics something you can have on your person that you can trade without any legal penalty.
Well, some states have initiatives to clear out old laws and potentially rebuild their constitutions, including an amendment that would remove slavery as punishment for a crime. Tell us about that initiative.
There are a couple of those around the country. Nebraska is one of them. There are states that and look, if you were to spend some time at home and look up your state's constitution, you might find there's stuff that has been in there for a long time, unrecognized, that people weren't paying attention to. So Nebraska might fully prohibit slavery with a vote. That's expected to pass this year. Iowa is voting on whether to have a constitutional convention, which is a bit less likely. Alabama, the same thing, to take another look at its constitution. But then you have stuff like Mississippi has a very complicated law that forces candidates for governor to win a majority of state legislative districts. That has been used before. It has the risk of an electoral college situation where somebody gets more votes for governor but does not become governor. And that is, in polling, likely to pass. I mean, Republicans have full control of the state. The rules as they are allow them to win these gubernatorial elections without the extra fuss, but it's likely they'll try to simplify their constitution.
Yeah, well, I was really surprised to read, though, Dave, about those initiatives about removing slavery from these constitutions. You know, in 2020, it's hard to imagine that that's just now coming to people's attention. But really fascinating stuff. Dave Weigel from the Washington Post. Dave, thanks so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.